several laps into the session, Jareth Hallam looks to refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, Jareth Hallam is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Bontekis is already setting the pace, clocking a 1 minute 28 seconds and 1 millisecond right out of the gate.
He looks hooked up, but there is still nearly half an hour left to see if anyone can chip away at that sector one time.
Nadine's sitting in P5 4/10 off the front, but he's consistently finding more time on every tour.
He's running a safe line for now, but once the track rubber's in, he'll need to commit harder to that entry if he wants to climb higher.
Bodkin is lurking just behind Nadine, less than a second off the top spot, but he's still got some work to do on his braking markers into the final complex.
Buntakis just dipped into the 27s. He's finding grip that nobody else is touching right now.
Hallam just answered back. He's within a tenth of Bontekis and making this look easy. Norton makes it a three-way fight at the top, just a hundredth of a second away from Hallam.
These three are all hovering around the same rhythm, just trading thousandths while they hunt for the absolute limit.
Constable Barry is hovering in eighth, but he's over a second off the pace being set by that lead trio. Kosis is struggling to find the same pace as the frontrunners, currently sitting a full second and a half back in 10th.
He looks like he's fighting a bit of understeer through the mid-corner, which is killing his drive onto the straights.
Norton is still locked into that third spot, but he has been putting in the laps, looking for a way to bridge that tiny gap to the front. Constable Barry just found a few tenths to move up into 7th.
He is tidying up his lines, but he's still leaving a lot of time on the table through the technical sections.
Stokes is hovering in 9th, and he's going to need to find a significant chunk of pace if he wants to challenge those front runners. Norton slips down to 4th, just bumped out of the top 3 by someone finding extra time.
He's been sitting on that same lap for a while. He needs to reset his focus and stop relying on that old data if he wants to get back in the hunt.
Bontakis remains the benchmark, but with the rest of the field closing in, that top spot is starting to look a bit precarious. Cormac is still stationary in the pits, waiting for the track to clear or maybe checking his telemetry.
He is losing valuable track time. At this stage, he needs to get out there and start building a rhythm before the qualifying sims begin.
Norton is still lingering in 4th, and the frustration is starting to show in his driving.
He's overdriving the car on entry, trying to force a time that isn't there instead of letting the car settle.
Hallam is looking settled in 3rd, but the gaps at the front are so tight he's one mistake away from tumbling down the order.
He needs to focus on his exit speed. He's losing just enough time on the straight to stay vulnerable to anyone drafting behind him.
Constable Barry is on a charge, finding half a second to climb into 6th, and he looks like he's got even more in the tank. Koshis finds a 10th or so, but 10th place is a lonely spot to be when the front runners are dipping into the high 27s. Walters just jumped to 2nd, dropping a 1 minute 27 seconds and 8 milliseconds, and he is now breathing right down Boontakis' neck.
That is a monster lap. He's found the balance through the mid-sector that the others are clearly still hunting for.
Stokes finds a decent chunk of time there, moving up to 8th, and showing a bit more confidence in the car's turn-in. Constable Barry is holding firm in 6th, but he's got nearly 4/10 to find if he wants to challenge the top 5. Still nothing on the board for Szabo. He's taking his time getting out of the garage.
It's a gamble waiting this long. The track temperature is shifting, and he's missing out on valuable data for his race trim.
Constable Barry is still looking at that 6th spot, but the field is starting to tighten up around him.
He's got to be careful not to get caught in a DRS train later today. If he doesn't find more pace now, he'll be a sitting duck in the race.
Norton just found a 10th to jump back up into 3rd, showing exactly why he's a threat today. Coach Ixis is chipping away at his personal best, but he's still stuck in 10th and looking like he's got a real fight on his hands to break into the midfield. Cormac finally gets a representative lap on the board, but he's over 3 seconds off the pace, looking like he's still struggling to find his feet. Still nothing from Szabo, and at this point, he's effectively burning his own practice time.
You have to wonder if they're chasing a gremlin in the setup, or if he's just playing a very strange game of cat and mouse.
Norton is holding steady in 3rd, just a 10th back from our leaders and looking like he's got the car nicely settled now. Where did that come from? Mole just obliterated the field with a 1 minute 27 seconds and 3 milliseconds to snatch P1. Kokes is still anchored down in 10th, and the gap to the front is widening as Mull just moved the goalposts.
He's hitting his marks, but the chassis just isn't responding through the high-speed sections. He needs a major setup tweak if he wants to stay relevant.
Norton is getting left behind a bit here. He's now half a second off the new benchmark set by Mull. Bontakis has slipped to 4th. Now he's going to need to find a massive half second if he wants to respond to that flyer from Mull. Lemrick is still sitting in the pits, which is a bit of a head-scratcher with under 14 minutes to go.
He might be doing a long-run simulation later, but he is throwing away his opportunity to get a feel for the peak grip on these tires.
Jabo is finally firing up the engine, nearly 48 minutes into the session.
Better late than never, but he's missed the window where the track was at its cleanest. He's going to have his work cut out for him.
Mull is just playing a different game today, finding even more time to shave that down to a 1 minute, 27 seconds, and 2 milliseconds.
He's absolutely flying. That's a masterclass in hitting the apexes, barely putting a wheel wrong.
Constable Berry is still sat in 6th, but he's under immense pressure from the cars behind him.
He needs to stop looking at the timing screen and start looking at his braking points. He's bleeding time every time he stabs the pedal too late.
Bontakis is stuck in 4th, and he's not making any significant inroads on the leaders.
He looks frustrated in the cockpit, pushing too hard and inducing a bit of snap oversteer on the exit of the slower corners.
Chavo finally puts a number on the board, but he's down in 11th, nearly 2.5 seconds off the pace.
He's clearly just feeling out the car, but he's running out of time to find the rhythm needed for a qualifying push.
Kosi's clips a fraction off his best, but he's still firmly stuck in the bottom half of the order.
He is just too cautious on the throttle. You can hear the hesitation coming out of the slow stuff, and it's costing him dearly on the following straight.
Constable Berry is clinging to P6, but he's got Stokes breathing down his neck, and he'll need to find a new gear if he wants to hold on to that spot. Sabo is still struggling for grip in 11th, looking like he's skating across the surface rather than digging in.
He's definitely lacking heat in those tires, which is going to make the car feel nervous and unpredictable.
That is a massive leap from Constable Barry. He finds half a second to climb into 5th, and finally looks like he's properly dialed in. Norton is holding steady in the top 3, but with the times tightening up, he's barely got a 10th in hand over the chasing pack.
He's got to stay calm. If he starts overcompensating for the slipstream effect, he's going to cook those front tires before the session ends.
Bountikis is falling back into the clutches of Constable Barry. That gap is down to just 300ths now.
He's visibly fighting the car through the chicane, just missing the apex and washing out too much speed on the exit.
Maul is looking untouchable out front, with a 700ths advantage over the field.
He's keeping the car so tidy. It's that efficiency that makes him so dangerous when the lights go out.
Kostas finds a couple of tenths to move into the 128S, but he's still looking at the wrong end of the timing screen with under 7 minutes to go. Nadine is sitting in 7th, but he needs to find another 3 tenths if he wants to push into that top 5 mix before time runs out. Jabo is still rooted to the bottom of the order in 11th, and the gap to the rest of the field is only continuing to grow as they find their rhythm. Kostas is still circling in 10th, just can't seem to find the breakthrough he needs to climb up the order.
He's been stuck in that same bracket for laps. Now he's basically just burning fuel at this point instead of finding those missing tenths.
Robert Cormack has set a best lap time of 1:31.675 so far. Constable Barry is holding on to 5th, but he's got Boomtakis right in his mirrors, less than a 10th separating them.
He's defending his line like it's the final lap of the race, which is great practice, but he's compromising his own corner speed to do it.
Where did that pace come from? So just jumped all the way up to 9th with a massive improvement.
Finally, he's found the bite he needed. He's stopped wrestling the wheel and started letting the car rotate properly on entry.
Stokes drops to 11th as the rest of the field finds more pace. He's running out of road to make a move back up the order. Cormac is languishing down in 13th, still over 3 seconds off the pace. And he doesn't look like he has an answer for it.
He's visibly struggling with the car's balance through the mid-sector. At this point, he's just gathering data for the engineers, rather than chasing a fast lap.
Bontakis has slipped to 5th, and he's running out of time to respond, currently sitting just a fraction behind the leaders in this tight group. Chris's last lap was a 2:08.390, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
Chris is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Lemrick finally puts a representative time on the board to jump into 8th, right in the mix for the final minute.
Better late than never, but he's missed the chance to really stretch the car's legs. He's going to be fighting for every inch in the midfield today.
Maul has been untouchable all session, and with seconds left on the clock, nobody looks to have an answer for that 1 minute, 27 seconds, and 2 milliseconds. Bontakis crosses the line one last time, but there's no improvement. He'll head into qualifying looking for answers in that 5th spot. Nadine's stuck in 10th, and with only seconds left, there's simply no time for him to string together another representative lap. Coaches finally clicks it together with a late flyer, grabbing 8th right at the death. Now, several laps into the session, Ben 18 looks to refine their line and timing. The clock is ticking down, but we are still waiting for Not Known to emerge from the pits and put a time on the board.
These final 6 minutes are going to be frantic. They really cannot afford to sit in the garage much longer if they want a clean run at this.
Hallam is absolutely flying on this lap. 7.5 tenths up on his personal best.
He's finding grip where there wasn't any a moment ago, probably pushing the track limits to the absolute edge to haul that car up into the top 10.
Hallam crosses the line, and that's a decent improvement, but he's still stuck in 10th.
He's found a few tenths, but with less than a minute on the clock, he's going to need something special to climb any higher.
Nodden is holding firm in 10th, but he is right on the bubble with time slipping away.
Bountikis is half a second up. That could be enough to bump him into the top 8 if he keeps it tidy through the final sector.
Stokes is on a flyer here, quarter of a second faster than his best, and he's only got 35 seconds left to make it count. Cormac is way off the pace this time around, over 8 seconds slower than his best.
He might have had a moment off track or just cooked his tires, because that lap is effectively a write-off.
Bodkin sets a blistering 1 minute 27 seconds and 8 milliseconds and jumps right up into 4th, leaving the rest of the field scrambling to respond. Martin Mall lines up on pole, and he looks calm as you like, sitting there at the front of the pack.
He's got to manage that launch perfectly. If he gets the revs wrong on the start, he's a sitting duck heading into the first turn.
Right alongside him is Elliot Norton, and he's going to be looking for any sign of hesitation from the leader when those lights go out. Constable Barry lines up third, and he has a front row seat to the scrap between the two pros ahead.
He needs to stay composed. Starting in the top 3 is easy. Staying there when the lights go out is where the real work begins. Bodkin is right there in the mix, and with these RSS4 cars, a solid jump off the line could put him right on Constable Barry's gearbox before they hit the first apex.
Walters is rounding out the top 5. He's got a bit of a gap to the guys ahead, but he's perfectly placed to capitalize if things get messy in turn 1. Valenticus is sitting in P6. He just needs to keep his nose clean and watch for anyone getting overambitious ahead.
It's always a bit of a lottery from the third row, but if he keeps his eyes up, he can pick off some spots while the others are busy fighting.
Sambo is tucked back in P8. He'll be hoping for a clean getaway to avoid the inevitable jostling further up the grid. Daniel Cusick lines up 9th, looking to make up some ground in that Pro-Am entry.
He's going to have a busy afternoon. If he can thread the needle through the chaos at the start, he might find some clean air to work with.
Rich Snape rounds out our top 10. He's got a mountain to climb if he wants to challenge those leaders.
He needs to be smart, not aggressive. Keep it on the tarmac through the opening complex and let the race come to him.
Ben Nadine is positioned in P11. He's got a lot of work to do from the mid-pack.
It's always tight back there. He needs to anticipate the braking zones early because the guys in front will be fighting for every inch of space.
Jareth Hallam is back in P13. Definitely not the start he would have wanted in this field.
He's got the pace to move forward, but he's going to have to be clinical with his overtakes to avoid getting bottled up in that mid-pack traffic.
Fovarg is lining up in P14, and he's going to need a perfect start to get in the slipstream of the cars ahead if he wants to jump up the order early. Cormac is sitting in P15. He's got a clear view of the field ahead, but he needs to avoid getting caught in any early lap incidents.
From that far back, your best bet is to pick a line that no one else is using and hope for a gap to open up through the first sequence.
Jody Fannin, starting 16th, is the shock of the session. There's no way a driver of his caliber is staying back there for long. Lights out, and away we go for this VVS championship round.
Great launch from Mull. He's already covering the line as they charge toward that first turn.
Mull has managed that opening sector perfectly, keeping the nose clean and holding on to the lead. Dictating the pace early on, just trying to break that crucial 1 second gap to get out of Norton's DRS range. Fovarg is stuck in a bit of a train back there, no room to breathe.
He's got to stop looking at the diffuser of the car in front and start looking for a mistake to capitalize on. That's the only way he's getting through.
Tough opening lap for Snape. He has dropped back 2 spots down to 12th.
He got pinched on the exit of that last corner, lost all his momentum, and now he is right in the middle of a scrap.
Snape has done well to recover that lost ground. He's back up to 10th and fighting hard.
He's got nearly a second of breathing room over Cormac now, which is exactly what he needs to focus on the cars ahead instead of his mirrors.
Things are getting claustrophobic between Cusick and Hallam. They are absolutely glued together.
Zero gap on the timing screen, which tells you everything you need to know about how aggressive this battle is going to get as we settle in. Hallam is really leaning on that gearbox at Kosick, trying to force a mistake by just staying consistently in his peripheral vision.
That tiny gap has opened up just a hair to 3/10, but Hallam is still looking for a way through.
He's been working that outside line, trying to set up a crossover, but Kosick is keeping his car perfectly centered through the apexes.
Kosick is looking up the road now. He's got Cormac in his sights with only 4/10 to bridge. A massive move from Kosick. He has muscled his way past Cormac and taken over P10.
Cormac is looking a bit vulnerable after losing that spot to Kosick, and Hallam is clearly smelling blood, with only 2/10 in it.
Hallam has pounced. He's successfully cleared Cormac and moved up into 11th.
He forced Cormac into a defensive line, flipped the apex, and just drove around the outside. That is how you capitalize on someone else's compromised rhythm.
It is a frantic start to this one, especially with those Pro-Am guys like Hallam showing some real teeth already.
Honestly, I love that early intensity. When you are in the car, those first few laps are sensory overload, and you can really see who has the composure to handle it.
And then you have Fannin way back in 16th. Surely he is not going to just sit there for the next 16 minutes.
If he stays back there, I'd be shocked. Jody is the kind of driver who sees a mid-pack traffic jam as an invitation to go 3 wide.
I'm keeping an eye on the leaders too. Maul is trying to disappear, but Norton is keeping him honest.
Norton knows he has to stay within that DRS zone. Once you lose that tether, these races become a lonely slog against the clock.
Snape has clawed his way up to 8th, and he is right on the gearbox of Fovard now.
0.2 of a second is nothing at this speed. He just needs to tuck in tight through the corners to minimize that drag.
Snape is up into 7th, but look at the gap behind him. Fovard has completely fallen off the pace and is way down the order. That drop-off for Fovard was sudden. 1 minute he is in a fight for positions, the next he is nowhere to be seen.
It looks like a mechanical gremlin, or maybe a spin that wasn't caught on camera, because he has completely lost touch with the pack.
It really opens things up for the drivers, like Snape though, who can now focus entirely on the car ahead rather than defending their own lines.
Exactly, and that is a massive mental shift. When you are constantly checking your mirrors, you end up making tiny incremental errors that add up over a stint.
We have seen plenty of action in these first few minutes, but 15 minutes is an eternity in the RSS4.
It is, but tires are going to start giving up soon, and that is when the real mistakes happen under braking.
Hallam is making serious progress. He is up to 9th and is now hunting down Kosick with that gap hovering at half a second. No change in the gap. Both are locked in a steady rhythm with 5/10 between them.
They are managing their pace nicely, but Hallam needs to be careful not to overheat the front end while he is sat in Kosick's wake.
Ben Nodden has quietly moved himself into the top 6, and he is breathing down the neck of Walters.
He is just 5/10 back. Watch for him to try and force a mistake on the entry to the next heavy braking zone.
The gap has stretched just a little bit, up to 7/10 now, so Nadine is going to have to work a bit harder to get back within striking distance. Fannin has finally started his charge. He has climbed to 11th and is practically glued to the back of Norton now. Norton has managed to pull away slightly, stretching that gap out to 9/10.
Fannin just didn't have the exit speed he needed there, and now he has to claw back that momentum all over again.
Szabo is absolutely swarming all over the rear wing of Fanon, just 1/10 in it.
He is showing his nose everywhere, trying to get Fanon to mirror drive and compromise his own line.
Fanon has managed to get a bit of breathing room now. The gap is back out to 4/10.
Szabo couldn't quite make that move stick. And in these Formula RSS cars, once you lose the toe on a straight, it's a long road back.
Hallam is still glued to the back of Kosick, and he's chipped that gap down to 4/10.
He's finding a little more pace now. If he can maintain this pressure, he'll likely force Kosick into a defensive error before this lap is out.
Kosick has shifted his focus forward. He is within 3/10 of Snape and looking to climb into the top 7. Snape has fended off the initial attack, nudging that gap back up to 4/10. Bontekis is hunting down Fanon, sitting just 4/10 behind and looking quick after that last lap. He is chipping away at that lead, bringing the deficit down to 3/10.
Every 10th counts here. Bontekis is maximizing his track position and really forcing Fanon to defend the apex.
Naden is all over the back of Walters, just 2/10 separating them as they head into this sector. Naden has done it. He has muscled his way past Walters to take 5th.
He timed that perfectly, caught Walters napping on the exit, and just muscled his way through. That is a massive move for the top 5.
Hallam is still searching for a way past Kosick, but he just can't seem to get closer than those 4/10. He is getting closer, down to 2/10 now, and the pressure is starting to ramp up.
You can see Hallam is really trying to force a mistake now, testing the outside line to see if Kosick flinches.
Nadine has moved up into 5th, and he is looking to bridge that 8/10 gap to Stokes ahead.
He has plenty of time left to work with, but he needs to settle into a rhythm and stop overdriving the car if he wants to close that distance.
He is making progress. Nadine has cut that gap to Stokes down to 5/10.
He is finding a much better rhythm now, carrying more speed through the middle sector, and really putting Stokes under the microscope.
Cormac is trying to establish a gap back to Fanon, sitting a second clear as he tries to salvage something from this middle pack fight. That is a massive shift. Cormac has effectively disappeared into the distance with Fanon falling over 50 seconds back.
It looks like Fanon has hit a major issue. He has completely lost all competitive pace and is just cruising around now.
It's all swapped around in this battle. Kosick is now trailing Hallam by half a second.
Kosick is losing time through the technical bits. He needs to tighten up his lines if he wants to stay in this fight.
Hallam is holding firm in 8th, keeping that half-second cushion over Kosick as they start the second half of the stint. That gap has come down to just 0.2. Kosick is absolutely hounding him now. And there it is, Kosic has found a way past, demoting Hallam back to 9th after that intense back and forth. Nadine is still knocking on the door of the top 4, sitting 0.7 off Stokes with 7 minutes to go. That gap has stretched out to a full second now. Nadine is losing the toe, and the window for a podium charge is starting to close. It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Stokes trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Neil Constable-Berry. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Chris Stokes close in enough to mount a challenge? Stokes is pushing hard and has reduced the gap to Dave's dad to 0.5 seconds. Constable-Berry is right on the back bumper of Bodkin, just 0.1, splitting the two as they fight for second. Bodkin has managed to buy himself a bit of breathing room, extending that gap to 0.4 after a very defensive line through the complex. Stokes is in the thick of the fight for the podium, just 0.4 off Constable-Berry with only 5 minutes on the clock.
He needs to stop showing his nose and just commit to a line. He is losing time by constantly adjusting his steering angle in that dirty air.
Stokes has closed that right back down to 0.1. He is absolutely glued to Constable-Berry's diffuser now. Constable-Berry is holding the line, but he's got Stokes breathing down his neck with just 0.3 seconds between them. It looks like Baldylocks is starting to catch up to Constable-Berry. The gap is now down to 0.1 seconds.
This is a critical moment in the race for Constable-Berry. They need to find some extra speed and stay ahead of Baldylocks.
Stokes has fallen back slightly. That gap is out to 0.5 as we enter the final few minutes of this battle. Bodkin is working hard to keep P5, but he has got Walters right on his gearbox now.
He is struggling with corner exit traction. If he does not clean that up, Walters is going to have a look down the inside very soon.
That is a tough break for Bodkin. He has lost the spot to Walters and is now chasing him down 0.6 back. Stokes has put his head down and found a way into the podium spots, sitting in 3rd and hunting down Constable-Berry just 0.4 ahead. Stokes has just slightly lost that momentum, with the gap back out to 0.5 seconds.
He is pushing the front tires too hard. You can see the car washing out at the apex every time he tries to close that distance.
Nadine has moved into 4th, and he is keeping the pressure on Stokes, holding that gap at 0.5 second.
He is in the perfect spot to capitalize if Stokes makes even a minor error on these fading tires.
Nadine has managed to shave 0.1 off that gap. He is really starting to look threatening now.
He is showing his nose in the mirrors. which is exactly the kind of psychological warfare you need when the tires are this worn.
Stokes is glued to the rear wing of Constable Barry. That gap is down to 3/10 as they hunt for second place. The race is heating up as Ben Nadine in fourth closes in on Chris Stokes. The gap is just over second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
That's right, Nadine in fourth knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Chris Stokes is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
Koshik is clawing at the back of Sabo, just 0.4 of a second separating them as they battle for eighth.
He is taking a tighter line through the mid-corner to save his rubber, but he's going to have to be aggressive if he wants to make a move before this one ends.
Bodkin is working overtime to close that 7/10 gap to Walters, but he's running out of time to force a move. Things have gone wrong for Kosick. He is fighting to stay ahead of Sabo with only 1/10 of a second buffer. That is an incredible turnaround. Kosic has suddenly found his rhythm and pulled a massive 9-second gap over Sabo.
It looks like Sabo might have gone off track or had a moment back there, because that gap is far too large to be just raw pace alone.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Phil Bodkin will need to keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. Bodkin has managed to chip away just a fraction, bringing the gap to Walters down to 0.6 as he hunts for that top 5 spot. Stokes is struggling to stay within that DRS window now. The gap to Constable Barry has ballooned out to 0.8. Stokes has found a bit of extra pace, pulling that gap back down to 0.7 as he looks to reestablish a challenge for second.
He is showing some real grip there, but he needs to be careful. Those tires have been through the ringer, and he is pushing them right to the edge of the cliff.
Bodkin is relentless. He has squeezed that gap to Walters down to half a second as we wind down.
He is using every inch of the curbing to carry momentum, but if he hits one wrong, he is going to have a massive snap of oversteer right at the worst possible moment.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Baldy Locks trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Neil Constable Barry. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race? Stokes has just lost a huge chunk of time to Constable Barry, falling over a second behind and effectively out of that immediate DRS range now. Bodkin is absolutely hounding Walters now, just 0.4 in it as they push towards the final stages of this race. A massive change in the gap. Walters has suddenly pulled clear by nearly 7 seconds, leaving Bodkin with nowhere to go. Martin Mall is cruising towards the finish line, completely untouchable out there today.
He has managed this race with absolute precision. That 12-second gap to Constable Barry tells you everything you need to know about his dominance.
What a win. This is a historic moment for Moll, who put on a masterclass in driving today. What a display of skill and precision.
And that's why Martin is one of the best in the business. A dominant display of driving from start to finish, leaving the rest of the pack in the dust.
Dave's dad takes second place with a fantastic race.
Intense race, but Constable Barry held their nerve and earned a great second place.
What a race from Baldilocks. They kept their cool and secured a well-earned third place on the podium. A clean sweep through the midfield as Nadine, Walters, Bodkin, and Snape all crossed the line to lock in those final positions. Eighth, 9th, 10th, and 13th sees John Buntakis, Jareth Hallam, Robert Cormack, and Jody Fanning. Daniel Coches and Greg Chabot in 11th and 12th. Jody Fannin is on pole.
A target on their back, Jody Fannin mustna Euro T get complacent.
Greg Szabo is looking sharp on the front row, holding steady as the AM-class representative in that RSS4. Daniel Kosick lines up third, and he's going to be looking for a way around Szabo before they even hit the first braking zone.
He's got the Pro-Am pedigree to manage that car on cold rubber, so keep an eye on his launch off the line. Cormack is sitting fourth, and if he can tuck into the slipstream of Kosick early on, he'll have a golden ticket to stay with the lead pack.
Jareth Hallam completes the top 5, and he's got his work cut out for him if he wants to stay in touch with the leaders.
He needs to be careful not to get bogged down in the mid-pack traffic. Once these cars are off the line, clean air is everything.
John Buntakis is anchoring that third row, needing a tidy start to keep pace with Hallam ahead.
Sixth is a tricky spot. You're usually caught in the crossfire of people trying to make up ground too aggressively.
Rich Snape is holding P7, and he'll be hoping for a bit of chaos ahead to climb a couple of spots early.
He needs to resist the urge to lunge into the first corner. Keep it clean, and let the guys ahead sort themselves out.
Nigel Walters starts from 9th, looking to carve a path through the pack as the field bunches up.
He's got a lot of work to do to get his tires up to temp without burning through them too quickly in this traffic.
Rounding out the top 10, Ben Naden has a clear view of the carnage ahead and will be hoping for a clean run through the opening chicane. Chris Stokes is starting way down in 11th, which is an unusual sight for a pro-class driver of his caliber.
He'll be absolutely fuming about that qualifying session, and you can bet he's going to be aggressive off the start to rectify it.
Neil Constable Barry slots into 12th, with Stokes directly ahead, providing a perfect marker for him to latch onto as the lights go out.
We've got another pro driver stuck in the lower half of the grid with Moll, and he'll need to navigate these AM cars ahead with absolute precision to salvage a podium.
And they are off. A clean getaway for the leaders as the pack funnel into that opening sequence. Jody Fannin has nailed the launch and is already starting to stretch his legs in the front of the field.
is holding the line perfectly, setting the pace while the rest of them squabble for space behind him.
Snape has slipped back a spot, losing a bit of momentum in that opening melee.
He got pinched on the exit of the center corner and had to back out of it, which is the last thing you want on lap 1.
Martin Mole is already on the move, picking off 2 cars as he sides through the pack.
He's got that pro class experience, shining through, keeping his nose clean while finding the gaps where others are hesitating.
Szabo has dropped to 4th. He is absolutely glued to the gearbox of Hallam with only 2/10 covering him.
He lost that podium spot somewhere in the opening scuffle, but he's fighting back instantly. This is the kind of pressure that forces a mistake.
Szabo has muscled his way back through. He snatched 3rd place, and he is side by side with Hallam through the apex.
Incredible wheel-to-wheel stuff. Szabo forced the issue, Hallam tried to squeeze him, but there is literally nothing between them right now.
Hallam has managed to break the toe for the moment, pushing that gap out to 4/10 as they hunt down the leaders.
Szabo is just overdriving it slightly. That last lap was a bit scrappy. He needs to settle into a rhythm before he burns his tires off this early in the stint.
No change in the order, but Hallam is looking rock solid in front of Szabo as they push through the middle of the lap.
Szabo is still stuck in that dirty air, and you can see the car dancing around. That's the front end washing out in the turbulent wake of the car ahead.
Martin Mole has climbed up to 9th, but he's got Constable Barry breathing down his neck with only half a second of breathing room.
He's having to defend hard now. That's the downside of working your way through the field. Your tires are going to be hotter than the guys in clean air.
Kosick is absolutely hounding Fannin for the lead, closing right up to within 3/10 as they start to pull away from the rest of the field. Fannin has found a little more pace, stretching that lead out to half a second and forcing Kosick to defend his line.
Kosick will be frustrated with that, but he's not out of this. He's just waiting for Fannin to make a small error on these cold tires.
Mole is right on the gearbox of Nadine, sniffing for a way through and putting him under massive pressure for 8th place. Mole hasn't been able to find a way past yet, and that gap has opened up just a hair to 2/10. It is a frantic start to the race, isn't it? The field is really starting to stretch out after those opening exchanges.
It usually settles down around this mark, but look at the gap between the pro and am drivers. There's no respect for the hierarchy on track today.
Exactly. We've seen the pro guys having to fight tooth and nail just to make clean passes.
And that's where the heart rate goes up. When I was racing, being stuck behind someone faster in a class battle was the most stressful part of the stint.
I can only imagine the amount of mirror watching going on in midfield right now.
Believe me, they aren't looking at the braking points, they're looking at who's lunging from 2 cars back.
Constable Barry is keeping Nadine honest here, just 3/10 back and looking to capitalize on any slip-up.
He's keeping his car steady, but he needs to start thinking about his exit speed if he wants to make a real lunge into the next heavy braking zone.
Constable Barry has gained a spot, but he's got a slightly larger 4/10 gap to overcome as he looks to reel in Nadine. Moll is carving through the order with real intent, now up to 7th and closing on Hallam.
He is driving that car exactly how you need to when you're on a charge. Late on the brakes, but keeping the chassis settled for the exit.
Moll has halved that deficit to Hallam, and he is absolutely putting him in the vice now, just 2/10 off the back of him. Constable Barry is putting Nadine under the microscope again, clawing back to within 2/10 as they navigate this sector. Constable Barry has just pulled the trigger. He's swiped 8th place away from Nadine in a beautiful bit of opportunism.
That was clinical. Nadine left the door just ajar, and Constable Barry didn't even hesitate. Straight up the inside and made it stick.
It didn't take long for Nadine to bite back, though. He's wrestled that spot back and put 3/10 of a second between them again. Hallam has slipped behind Moll, and he's now trailing by half a second as he tries to keep his composure.
He needs to focus on his own line now. Chasing hard like that will just cook his tires and make him vulnerable to anyone behind him.
Hallam is back up to 6th, and it looks like Moll has hit some serious trouble, dropping way back to 10th with a massive gap now between them. Kosick is absolutely under the cosh now, with Stokes glued to his diffuser and only a 10th separating them. A disastrous couple of corners for Kosick. He's tumbled down to 5th, while Stokes is charged up to 3rd.
That's a huge loss of momentum for Corsa. He's absolutely hemorrhaged time. Stokes looks like he's in a different league right now.
Kosick is continuing to slip, now down to 6th, as the gap to the podium continues to grow. Greg Szabo is hunting down the leader. He's carved that gap down to just 3/10 now.
He's found some real rhythm in that last sector, and Fannin is going to start feeling the heat if he can't find a little more pace on the exit.
Szabo is turning the screw. He's chipped another 10th off the lead, and he is right on Fannin's bumper now.
Fannin is looking a bit ragged through the mid-corner, and that's playing right into Szabo's hands. He's just waiting for a lapse in concentration.
Ben Nadine is doing his best to hold on to 7th, but Nigel Walters is closing the distance, looking dangerous 4/10 back.
Nadine is struggling for traction off the exit, and you can see he's overcorrecting, which is only going to make those tires heat up faster.
It is virtually a dead heat for the lead. Szabo is a mere 10th away from Fannin now.
He is working every inch of the track, really pushing the limit of his braking zones to force Fannin into a mistake.
He's done it. Szabo has snatched the lead away from Fannin in a masterclass of racecraft.
Clinical execution. He forced the mistake, ducked down the inside, and Fannin had absolutely no answer for that move.
Unbelievable. Fannin has fired back immediately to reclaim the lead, and the gap between these two is absolutely non-existent again. Fannin has managed to create a bit of breathing room again, pushing that gap out to 4/10 as they work through the middle of the lap. Szabo is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far, they're 1.17 seconds down.
Can Szabo refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they are capable of?
Moll is absolutely flying. He is locked onto the back of Kosic and putting him under incredible pressure for 8th place. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Moll gaining places and Daniel Kosic losing them. Moll's momentum has stalled just a fraction. The gap's opened back up to 2/10.
He's starting to show the strain of these last few laps. Those rear tires will be screaming for mercy after the pace he's set to get here.
Walters is trying to close in on Nadine, but that gap is hovering near a second now.
He really needs to tighten up his lines. That last lap was a bit loose, and he's just burning through the rubber he needs for a late race charge.
Walters has managed to shave a tenth off that gap, but he's still got work to do if he wants to get within striking distance of Nadine.
He's finding a bit more stability now, but he needs to make sure he isn't just following Nadine. He's got to find a different line to force the car ahead.
Moll is still shadowing Kosick, just 2/10 off his tail as we tick toward the final 8 minutes.
He's biding his time, but he needs to make that pass soon before the tire degradation makes these cars impossible to place precisely.
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Sabo is chasing Jody Fannin in P1. Sabo has reclaimed the top spot, and they are glued together at the front. Absolute perfection under pressure. Fannin has muscled his way back into the lead, forcing Sabo to settle for second again with a 2/10 gap emerging. Walters is still stuck in that 9/10 window behind Nadine, and the clock is really starting to work against him. No movement in the gap, and Walters is starting to look a bit desperate as he probes for a way past Nadine. I hear that Nigel is a pretty keen skier and snowboarder.
He's certainly got a mountain to climb if he wants to do well in this race.
Stokes has firmly entered the podium fight, closing to within 4/10 of Sabo as he hunts down a second-place finish. Stokes has just pushed a little too hard and let that gap stretch out to half a second.
He's fighting understeer now. I can see him wrestling the wheel mid-corner. That's what happens when you try to chase down a podium in the final minutes.
Sabo is losing touch with Fannin. That lead is creeping up to 6/10, and he's got to stop the bleeding if he wants to challenge for the win. Sabo is hanging on, but Fannin is holding that 6/10 buffer with absolute authority.
It looks like Sabo might have taken too much out of his tires earlier on. He's just not getting the drive off the corners he had 10 minutes ago.
Stokes is sensing blood. He's clawed back a 10th on Sabo and is looking like the fastest man on track right now. Stokes is really leaning on Sabo now, closing to within 3/10 of that second-place spot.
This is exactly where you want to be. He's putting all that pressure on Sabo, who's already struggling with his rubber. Stokes is playing a smart game here.
Phil Bodkin is looking incredibly lively in 7th, right on the back of Walters and applying the pressure with just 5 minutes remaining. The battle for 2 is heating up as Stokes tries to catch Suavo in P2.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds. Can Chris Stokes close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
Stokes has just lost a bit of that momentum. Chabot's managed to pull the gap back out to 0.6 as we reach the final push. Bodkin is right in the mix, sniffing out 6th place as he presses Walters to within 0.2.
He's finding a great rhythm now, but those tires are going to be greasy. He needs to be surgical with his line through these next few corners.
Chabot is hanging in there, nibbling away at that lead to bring Fannin back within 0.4 as they hunt for the finish. Let's talk about tire degradations. How does it affect the car's handling, and what do drivers need to do to adapt to the changing conditions?
Tire degradation can significantly impact handling, Hal. As the tires wear, the grip reduces, and drivers need to adjust their braking points, cornering speeds, and throttle application to maintain control of the car.
Szabo is turning up the heat again, closing to within 0.3 of Fannin as they fight for every inch of track.
He's keeping it much tighter on the apex now. Finally found the grip he was missing a few laps ago. Fannin better watch his mirrors.
Fannin has edged away just a touch, extending his lead back out to 0.4.
Every single meter matters now. Szabo just had a tiny snap of oversteer on the exit, and that's all it takes to lose that crucial 10th.
Bodkin is still hunting for 6th, but that gap to Walters has grown slightly to 0.4.
He's fighting the car now. The heat in those tires is clearly dropping off, and he's struggling to maintain the turn-in he needs to mount a real challenge.
Stokes is slotted into 3rd and is hunting Fannin down, but he's got a mountain to climb with 0.9 of a second to make up. Stokes is losing ground. The gap to Fannin has pushed out to a full second now.
He's hit a wall with his pace. At this stage, he's just trying to bring the car home in one piece rather than risking a total blowout.
Bodkin is really struggling to stay in the hunt now. That gap to Walters has ballooned to 0.8 as the car starts to slide around. Jareth Hallam is holding steady in 4th, with a comfortable cushion of nearly 2 seconds back to Ben Naden.
He's done the hard work of building that gap. Now it's just about discipline. Don't get fancy, don't clip the curbs, just bring it home.
Jareth Hallam has been served a big slice of Eat My Dust by Ben Naden. I hope they got their eating pants on.
That's right. They've got to shake it off and not let this setback affect their mindset. Meanwhile, Ben is showing some incredible skill and determination, and is now a serious threat to the other drivers on the track.
It looks like Stokes is pushing hard to catch up to Greg Szabo. The gap is over a second, but Stokes is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Greg Szabo? Szabo is under massive pressure from Stokes, holding on to 2nd place with only 0.6 to spare. Stokes has closed the door on that gap. He's back to within 0.4 of Szabo and clearly sensing a late race podium swap. Stokes seems to have lost a bit of that late race spark, dropping back to 7/10 off the back of Szabo.
He's clearly struggling for grip now. Those tires are screaming for a cool-down lap that he isn't going to get today.
Stokes has pulled a rabbit out of the hat and snatched second place right out from under Szabo.
Stunning move. He forced Szabo wide and seized the momentum. Now he just has to defend that spot with everything he's got left in those tires.
A setback for Baldilocks, who has just been passed.
That's gotta hurt. Chris will be kicking themselves right now.
Bodkin has picked up a spot to move into 6th, and he is applying the heat to Walters, closing into just 6/10. It's not looking good for Phil Bodkin. They're still behind Nigel, and the gap is increasing. They're going to need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
It's not over yet, but Bodkin should get a move on if they want to catch up to knock off Nigel.
Stokes has fallen back, and Szabo has managed to reclaim some breathing room, stretching that gap out to a full second. Jody Fannin has absolutely crushed it today, cruising toward the line with an 8-second cushion.
He's been untouchable. Once he got into that clean air, he just managed his pace and never gave Szabo a look in.
The leader has just finished the race. A fantastic result for Fannin. Greg's Frem crosses the line to secure a hard-fought second place.
He held his nerve through all that mid-race chaos. That's a stellar result for the AM-class driver.
And what a drive from Chris Stokes, coming all the way from 11th to snag the final step on the podium.
That is proper work. Starting outside the top 10 and finishing P3, he had to be surgical today.
Nadine leads that chasing pack across the line to take 4th, with Walters, Bodkin, and Constable Berry following in quick succession to round out the top 7. Koshis, Moll, and Bontakis wrap up their efforts to close out the field as the checkered flag continues to wave.
It has been a wild session from lights to flag. Lots of bruised egos in that mid-pack, but they all brought the cars home.
Coming in 10th and 11th, we have Robert Cormack and Rich Snape. Jody Fannin is still sitting in the pits with 8 minutes to go, which is an eternity in the fancy movie. Cautious is still parked up, and at this stage of the session, he's burning through time he really can't afford to lose.
It's a gamble. Maybe he's tweaking the setup, but every minute he stays in the garage is a minute he's not learning the track surface.
Fannin's still haunting the garage, just waiting for the track to clear or his crew to give him the green light. Still nothing on the board for Martin Mall with under 7 minutes left.
He's definitely pushing it. You don't want to be doing your installation lap when everyone else is already on their qualifying sims.
Fannin is running out of track time fast. The clock is ticking down, and he's still got 0 laps recorded. Kokexis is still holding out in the garage, but with 5.5 minutes left, the pressure to get a banker lap in is mounting quickly. Five minutes to go, and Martin Mall is still empty-handed. He's leaving himself absolutely no margin for error now. Walters is still stationary in the pits, which is a massive headache with only 4.5 minutes left.
He's basically forced into a one-lap shootout now. One mistake on his outlap and he's done for the session.
Cormac is still staring at the telemetry screens instead of hitting the track, and time is evaporating.
You hate to see it. He's going to head out while everyone else is pushing hard, which means dealing with a lot of traffic on his first flying lap.
Kokis is finally firing up, but he's got less than 3.5 minutes to find his feet out there. finally hits the track and immediately slots into P2 with a 1 minute 27 seconds and 6 milliseconds.
That is a massive relief for his team, but he's only got a couple of minutes left to see if there's any more pace in that car.
Martin Moll jumps straight to the top of the board with a 1 minute 27 seconds and 3 milliseconds, knocking Fannin off the summit. Cormac is finally making his move, leaving the pits with just under 2 minutes to play with.
He's got time for maybe one flying lap, but the tires aren't going to be in the window for that first push.
Greg Chabot was showing some real pace, slotting into third and keeping the pressure on the two guys ahead of him. Moll finds a little more time, shaving a couple of tenths off his best to solidify that top spot with less than a minute remaining. Zabo is still P3, but he's right on the ragged edge, trying to find another tenth or two before the flag falls.
He's pushing the braking zones, but if he locks up now, he's not getting another chance to redeem it.
Fontequez is still in the pits, and it's game over for him. He's not even going to get a lap in before the clock hits 0. Constable Barry is still waiting in the garage, and with under 40 seconds left, he's effectively resigned himself to starting the race with 0 practice data. Bodkin is sitting pretty in P6, but he's only a few tenths away from climbing higher if he can nail this final sector.
He's been consistent all session, but now he needs to stop driving for data and start driving for the limit if he wants to jump into that top 5.
Kokias has managed to salvage a 1 minute 27 seconds and 8 milliseconds, putting him 5th and showing he's got the pace even with that late start. Track's still quiet, but Not Known is about to kick things off with under 6 minutes on the clock. Constable Barry is finally pulling out of the pits. He's left it pretty late to get a representative lap in.
He's under the gun now, just over 5 minutes to find some grip and put a time on the board.
Ben Naden is joining the fray, but he's already burned nearly a quarter of the session sitting in the garage.
He'll be hoping the track surface has rubbered in enough for him to go fast immediately, because he doesn't have the luxury of a banker lap.
Walters is only just leaving the pit lane. He's barely got time for 2 flyers before this session ends.
He's really putting himself under pressure. He needs to nail every apex on this first run, or he'll be starting from the back.
Fannin is purple in the first sector. He's hunting for more time on this third run.
He's got over a tenth in his pocket already. If he keeps this momentum through the complex, he'll be knocking on the door of the front row.
Walters is finding a bit more pace here, shaving nearly 2/10 off his previous best.
He needs to be careful not to push the front end too hard. That gain will vanish instantly if he misses his braking point.
Snape is really finding his rhythm. 4/10 up on his personal best as he chases a spot in the top 10. Snape just jumped 5 spots into P5. That's a massive final sector improvement right there. Nadine's finding over a second on this lap. He's clawing back a lot of time.
He needs that pace. If he doesn't find another half second, he's going to be sitting on the bubble for the final cut.
Bounticus is dipping into the greens again, looking to squeeze a little more out of that lap as the clock ticks down.
He's threading the needle perfectly. One lock up here and he'll blow this lap completely, but he looks dead calm in the cockpit.
Walters is on a charge. He's up a tenth as he heads into the final few corners of this session.
He's really leaning on the car, pushing the track limits right to the edge. He knows it's now or never.
Bounticus is flying. He's nearly 4/10 up and looking to vault up the order in these final seconds.
He's keeping it tidy through the exit. That's exactly what you need when the tires are starting to get that greasy feel.
Stokes is showing a bit of pace, currently shading his personal best by almost 2/10.
He needs to hold his nerve. With the field this tight, one small mistake in the final chicane, and he's out of the top 10 entirely.
Stokes has just lost a huge chunk of time through that sector, nearly 2 seconds off his pace.
He's either made a massive error or he's just aborted that run to save the rubber for one final go.
Phil Bodkin's sitting in the thick of it today, lined up P2 and looking to disrupt the leaders.
Big ask for an AM driver to hold his nerve against the pros, but Bodkin's got the pace to keep them honest into that first corner.
Greg Szabo is locking out the second row. He's got a perfect view of the leaders as they sit on the grid.
He needs to be careful not to get jumpy. If he tries to force it too early into turn 1, he's just going to compromise his exit.
John Buntakis is tucked in right behind Szabo. He'll be hoping for a clean launch to stay in the tow early on.
Walters is going to have his hands full back in P5, especially with how tight the mid-pack gets on this opening lap.
Jody Fannin is the first of the pros in the pack, sitting P6 and looking to carve through these AM drivers quickly. Rich Snape's got a bit of work to do from 7th. He's got a pro right in front of him who's going to be looking for a way forward.
Snape just needs to latch onto Fannin and let that pro toe pull him along. Don't let the field gap open up early.
Chris Stokes rounding out the top 8. He's another pro on a charge who'll be looking to make up ground before the tires get too hot.
Constable Barry is going to feel that dirty air instantly. He needs to stay tight and keep the car stable through the opening sequence.
Daniel Kosa completes the top 10, looking to bridge the gap between the mid-pack and the front-runners. Ben Nadine is positioned 11th. He's got a long way to go if he wants to challenge those front-runners.
He needs to focus on his own race rather than getting tangled in the mid-pack scraps. Patience is key from back there.
Cormac's got a bit of space to work with in P12, but he'll have to watch his mirrors as the field bunches up through the first sequence. Martin Mole lines up on pole, completely composed as the lights are about to fire up.
He's the one everyone is gunning for, and from my experience, the air is never cleaner than when you're leading the field into that first turn.
And we are green. A perfect getaway for Martin Mole as the rest of the field scrambles for real estate into turn 1.
Mole is absolutely flying. He's already opened up a cushion, so he doesn't have to defend that line into the next complex.
Constable Barry is holding station in ninth, but he's got his hands full with the traffic ahead.
He's keeping it steady, but he needs to find a rhythm quickly before the leaders start pulling away.
Constable Barry is holding the line, but he's under immense pressure from the cars right on his gearbox. Daniel Kosick has absolutely nailed that opening lap, scything his way up to 7th and finding some serious pace. Kosick is on a mission, jumping 3 spots in just 1 lap.
That was opportunistic work for the opening sector. He clearly found a line the others didn't want to commit to.
Stokes has vaulted up into 6th and is now putting serious heat on Fannin, just a 10th separating them as they fly through this section. Bodkin is glued to the back of Moll, just 3/10 in it as they settle into the rhythm of this race, with 17 minutes still to run. Moll has managed to stretch that lead by a fraction. It's now 4/10 as Bodkin just misses that toe through the corner exit. Stokes is right on the gearbox of Fannin here. That single 10th is virtually nothing as they trade lines looking for an opening. Fannin is starting to break the toe slightly, the gap growing to 3/10 as Stokes struggles to stay within striking distance. Bodkin is right back on it. That gap has shrunk to just a 10th as they cross the line for lap 2.
He's absolutely hunting him down now, using every bit of that slipstream to force Moll into a defensive line.
Moll has managed to weather that initial charge, pushing the gap back out to 2/10 as they navigate through this complex. Stokes is clinging on to the back of Fannin in 6th, just 2/10 between them as they battle for that spot. Stokes has lost a little momentum there. The gap to Fannin has opened up to half a second as they head into the next technical section. Rich Snape is breathing down the neck of Daniel Kosick in 7th, just 2/10 separating the pair as they look to move up the order. Snape has absolutely closed the door on Kosick. That gap is down to just a 10th now.
He's right in the sweet spot of the toe. If Kosick makes one twitch, Snape is going to be all over him.
Stokes has found a bit more pace. He's back within 2/10 of Fannin now.
He's much closer, this time through the chicane. He's definitely trying to unsettle Fannin's rhythm before the braking zone.
It looks like Stokes has made a mistake. That gap has blown out to a full second in just a few corners.
That's a huge error. For someone of his caliber, he's absolutely thrown away the toe, and now he's got to manage the gap from behind.
Greg Szabo is putting the pressure on Phil Bodkin, only half a second between them as they hunt down the leader.
Szabo is looking really tidy through the apexes here. He's definitely keeping his tires in good shape compared to the guys ahead.
Szabo is slowly reeling him in. That gap has tucked down to 0.4 as they continue to close on the top spot. Nigel Walters is clawing back time on Ben Nadine, half a second the gap as they fight for the bottom end of the top 10.
Walters needs to watch his tire temps there. He's pushing hard, but sliding just a bit too much on that corner exit.
Szabo's got a bit of breathing room now, keeping Bountakis at bay with a 6/10 gap as he looks to re-engage with the top two. Szabo is extending that cushion, stretching the gap out to 0.7 now.
He's driving with a lot of confidence. By keeping Bountakis at arm's length, he's free to focus entirely on hunting down Bodkin ahead.
Rich Snapes got Constable Barry breathing down his neck. Just 0.3 back there.
Snape's under massive pressure. If he misses one apex, Constable Barry is going to dive right up the inside.
Szabo is back on the charge, cutting Bodkin's buffer down to 0.4 as we approach the midpoint of this race.
He's really putting the car on the edge now. You can see him trail braking deeper into the turn to try and force a mistake from Phil.
Szabo is absolutely flying. He's halved that gap to just 0.2 in the blink of an eye.
He's got the bit between his teeth now, closing the distance precisely where Bodkin is struggling to put the power down.
Snape is really struggling to shake off Constable Barry. That 0.2 gap is becoming a persistent headache for him. Snape has found some extra pace and capitalized on some movement ahead to jump up to 6th, and he's successfully padded that lead over Constable Barry to half a second. Wait, where did Bodkin go? He has plummeted all the way down to 10th. That is a massive slide for him.
He must have had a significant off-track moment or a heavy lockup. That gap to Szabo behind him shows he has lost all his momentum.
Chris Stokes has done a brilliant job clawing his way back into 4th, and he is right on the back of Fannin again.
He's definitely found his rhythm now, keeping the car much straighter on exit than he was a few laps ago.
Stokes has pulled it off. He's muscled his way past Fannin into 3rd, but Fannin is staying glued to his gearbox, just a 10th back.
Aggressive move, but he made it stick. Now the challenge for Stokes is holding that line while Fannin looks for any excuse to dive back down the inside.
Unbelievable. Fannin has snatched the position right back. They are absolutely side by side at the line.
These two are putting on a masterclass in wheel-to-wheel racing. That was a perfect switchback for Fannin to regain the advantage.
Fannin has fallen back 0.4 behind Stokes. Now, looks like those heavy scraps for position have taken a toll on the tires. Huge turn of events as Fannin slips back into 3rd while Stokes has tumbled down to 5th, putting a full second between them. Stokes is looking to salvage his race, sitting in 5th and trying to close that 0.3 gap to Kosick.
He needs to compose himself after that last sequence. He's pushing the car too hard, and the entry speeds into the corners are getting erratic.
Stokes just can't seem to find a rhythm. He's drifted back to half a second behind Kosic now.
He's overdriving the front end. You can see the car washing out at every apex. He needs to dial it back to gain speed.
Nigel Walters is right in the hunt for 7th, trailing Ben Naden by half a second with 9 minutes on the clock.
He's keeping his nose clean, which is exactly what he needs to do if he wants to capitalize on anyone losing their cool ahead of him.
Stokes is relentless. He's back within 0.3 of Kosic for 4th place.
He's stopped fighting the car and is finally hitting his marks again. If he can hold this line, he might force Kosic into a mistake under braking.
Stokes tried to force the issue, but couldn't make it stick, slipping back a 10th as Kosic defends that inside line like a fortress. Kosic is doing a brilliant job maintaining that cushion. He is not giving Stokes an issue.
He is choosing his braking points perfectly, forcing Stokes to take the long way around every single time.
Oh, it seems, Sky, that Kosic has seen their lead over Chris Stokes shrink to 0.2 seconds. Stokes is glued to the rear bumper of Kosic. That gap is down to just a 10th as we hit the business end of this race. Stokes has just lost a fraction of that intensity, the gap creeping back up to 0.2 as they weave through traffic.
He needs to reset. The frustration of being stuck behind Kosic is clearly starting to affect his line choice.
Constable Barry is closing in on Kosic, bringing that gap down to half a second as they both look to turn the heat up on the leaders. Constable Barry is hunting, shaving another 10th off that gap as he puts the pressure on the car ahead.
He's keeping it very composed, looking for a weakness in Kosic's entry to set up a run for the next sector.
Wait, a massive drop for Daniel Kosic. Just tumbled down to 8th and has a 2-second cushion over Bodkin.
He must have caught a curb wrong or had a technical hiccup, because he's lost all that hard-fought pace in the middle of the field.
The battle for 9 is heating up as Riccardo Snapezi tries to catch Bodkin in P9.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds. Can Rich Snape close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
The best laid plans of mice and men, huh, Sky? But it's certainly not going to plan for Snapes right now as they are struggling to keep up with Phil. Jody Fannin has his work cut out for him. He's got a full second to bridge if he wants to steal P2 from Boontakis.
He's got the pace, but he's really punishing those tires to get it. Hope he's got enough left in the tank for a late race lunge.
Boontakis is all over the back of Stokes, just a 10th separating them as they battle for that final podium spot.
He's really testing the brakes of Stokes there, poking the nose into the inside line to see if he can force an error under pressure.
A disastrous moment for Boontakis. He's dropped back to 5th, and that 2-second gap to Stokes means his podium bid is effectively over. Phil Bodkin is digging deep to catch Kosic, chipping away to get that gap down to just over a second with only 4 minutes of racing remaining. Bodkin is absolutely flying now. He has halved that gap to just 5/10.
He is driving the wheels off that car. He clearly wants to make amends for that earlier slip-up by snatching a spot back before the flag.
Ben Nadin is within 7/10 of Bountakis, keeping the pressure on as he hunts for a late top 5 finish. Nadine is chipping away at that deficit, bringing it down to 6/10 as they carve through the final sector.
He's keeping a very tidy line. If he can just keep this momentum through the corners, he'll be right on Bountakis' diffuser before long.
Bodkin is relentless. He has closed that gap to Kosick down to a mere 3/10.
He is showing incredible recovery pace, but he needs to be smart. You cannot afford to get impatient and ruin your tires with so little time left.
Bodkin has done it. He has lunged past Kosick to take 8th place in a wheel-to-wheel scrap, which is tipped in his favor.
He forced the issue perfectly, leaving Kosick no room to defend without risking contact. That is brilliant recovery driving.
Nadine's still stalking Bountakis in 5th, but that 7/10 gap is proving stubborn to close as we head into these final few minutes. Bodkin's trying to fight back immediately, but Kosick is holding the line with 4/10 between them.
It's a cat-and-mouse game now. Bodkin is forcing him to take the defensive inside line, which is really killing Kosick's mid-corner speed.
Bodkin is clawing his way back onto the rear wing, shaving another 10th off that gap as he refuses to settle for 9th. The crowd is on tenterhooks as Neil Constable-Berry in 4th chases after Chris Stokes. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Neil Constable-Berry find a way to catch up?
It's going to be tough for Neil, as Chris Stokes seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Neil pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
Two tenths is all that separates them now. Bodkin is absolutely hunting him down for that 8th spot.
He's got the toe, he's got the pace. Now he just needs to pick the right moment to pull the trigger before we run out of time.
It's a stalemate for now, but Bodkin is relentless, keeping the pressure at 2/10 as they navigate this technical sequence. This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Ben will need to keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops.
Absolutely. Nadine in 6th will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game here.
While Donkey Kong is not under immediate threat from Phil Bodkin, they still need to avoid errors. Any slip-up could cost them their position.
That's right, and Phil Bodkin knows that they have to keep pushing hard and driving their own race. They can't let Daniel Kochanshis off the hook.
Disappointing for Daniel, they now find themselves in 11th. Nadine's still giving it everything, but Bountakis is managing the gap well, holding him at bay by 8/10 as the clock winds down. Nadine has found a second win, chipping away to bring the gap to 6/10 as he desperately looks for a way past Bountakis. In your experience, Sky, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, Hal, was managing the various inputs and distractions during the race. from radio communication with the team to monitoring car performance and race strategy. It's a delicate balancing act that requires immense mental discipline.
A massive setback for Bodkin, who's fallen to 11th. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to catch Kosic just 3/10 ahead. What a move. Phil has moved up to 10th.
That's what we like to see. Phil Bodkin is really showing their class today.
I'm curious, Sky, can you tell us about any pre-race rituals you had when you were racing?
Of course, Hal. Before every race, I would listen to a specific playlist of songs to help me get in the zone. I also had a lucky pair of socks that I would wear during races. It may sound silly, but those little rituals helped me feel prepared and focused.
It doesn't seem like things are going to plan for Nadine, as they have a big gap ahead of them to close at this point in time.
Every race adds to a driver's experience, both good and bad. It just highlights that Ben Nadine is going to have to get more serious with practice if they don't want to be outclassed on the circuit.
Martin Mol is cruising towards the line, a commanding 12-second lead over Fandon as he enters the final sector.
He has managed this race perfectly from the opening lap. That is a clinic in race control.
Martin Mol takes the checkered flag, a dominant performance from pole to finish that never looked in doubt. Jody Fannin follows him home for a hard-earned second, a massive recovery after starting back in 6th. Chris Stokes rounds out the podium in 3rd, a fantastic drive to climb 5 spots from his starting position.
He really showed some grit after those mid-race battles, staying focused when he could have easily let the podium slip away.
A busy finish for the mid-pack with Constable Berry, Buntikis, Nadine, and Walters crossing the line in quick succession to round out the top 7. Finishing 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th is Rich Snape, Phil Bodkin, Greg Sabo, and Daniel Kosis. Robert Cormack crosses the line to secure P12.
It was a quiet race for him, but he stayed out of trouble and brought the car home in one piece, which is always a solid foundation to build on.